podcast. My name is Tirzah Elese. I am the CEO and founder of UConnect, and I have a podcast called The Vocal Mind. That was really born out of all of my years in education as an advocate for getting the best out of education for our young people so that they really walk into the world with the skills that they need in order to fly, achieve, succeed, thrive, and be happy. What we know is that pretty much every young person that you speak to says that education doesn't really give them the skills they need. Even just yesterday, we went out into the city and we were asking young people, what is it that you really need for education, and does it give it to you today? They all said, no, it doesn't. We need finance, we need social media awareness, we need to know how to communicate with people. We need to understand what it means to budget, to travel. And school doesn't teach them any of that. Anyway, I luckily met this gentleman to my right, Mr. Michael Jordan, on an international online networking connection. And we really hit it off because Michael, like me, has traveled the world and focused on supporting people in education or in people in work to communicate in an international space, traveling from place to place, whether you're going to a different university or whether you're starting a new job somewhere else, to have that capacity, that awareness, that knowledge of how to present yourself and communicate in a professional way. Michael, it's so nice that you're here. And we are trying again. So just a little thing. We tried to do a LinkedIn Live. My tech skills were good. They got me more than halfway there, but I didn't get there. So we are now recording. So we're doing the intro again. So welcome, Michael, and thank you for being here.
Thank you, Tirzah. Yes.
So much value. So we're just recording it and we're going to send it out to all of you instead.
Great. First of all, in case anyone's disappointed, no, I'm not that Michael Jordan. I'm another Michael Jordan. And I'm, of course, delighted to join you here today, Tirzah, because this is one of my professional passions in life, is working with young people, especially to help them build their own careers, okay? Starting even in high school. And I'll soon explain how, with my 3 children, how I've even gotten them launched on their own LinkedIn platforms and why that's important, okay? So if I may also give a bit of background as to how I developed my own, what I believe is a unique approach to brand building and executive coaching, especially with young people. My background is that I've been, as Tirzah mentioned, I've been fortunate enough to have lived on 4 continents. I'm an American now, having returned to New York City. This is where I am right now. But over the past 25 years, I've lived in Central Europe, in the 2 Central European nations of Hungary and Slovakia for 11 years, then moving to Southern Africa, to the tiny African kingdom of Lesotho for 4 years, then out to Beijing, China for 5 years. My background professionally is that I was a young foreign correspondent, a freelance foreign correspondent in Central and Eastern Europe, reporting for various newspapers, magazines, news services. Over 20 years, I reported from 30 countries all across Central and Eastern Europe, Central Asia, and Southern Africa. Then, over the years, I also branched into teaching, where then I became a visiting professor of international journalism. Most recently, when we were in China, teaching in Beijing, Shanghai, and Hong Kong. But for these purposes, for this discussion, my experience in Africa was particularly relevant because I'd already had this background as a foreign correspondent, as a journalism professor. And when we moved to Lesotho, high in the mountains of southern Africa, I immediately saw, of course, what a dramatic health crisis the Basotho people were enduring, with the world's 3rd highest rate of HIV. And 40% malnutrition. I felt very inspired by what all the other expats, the expatriates living there and working there were doing. Everyone seemingly focused on how to help this society regarding its health challenges. So then I adapted all my international journalism skills, strategies, and storytelling to global communication, specifically global health and HIV, how to tell the story of what was happening there on the ground, but specifically with a mission to not just raise awareness, but also even to prove to donors and other partners what was happening on the ground. Okay, so that's how I began to apply my journalism to communications. And what's also relevant is then once I moved from Lesotho to Beijing, not only was I teaching journalism to Chinese graduate students, I created courses called Storytelling from China, how smart young Chinese could learn to think like me, to report as a foreigner for an international audience in English about China and Chinese societal issues and challenges. But at the same time, it was there that I also was introduced to the world of university essays and application essays. So this is relevant maybe to some of you listening or to some of your children, that then I applied my international storytelling skills to individuals, okay, to kids, even teenagers, how to help them tell their stories to establish their own comparative advantage, how you compare favorably, positively compared with your peers, but also your value added. Okay, what you bring to the table, what you bring to the classroom or onto campus. Okay, and so that's how I began to blend this idea of strategic communications with your own personal storytelling, what I call strategic storytelling. Okay.
Beautiful. And stories are really what people respond to, isn't
Yeah.
it? People live off of and get interested in you because of a story, right? We connect with people because of a story. And I was saying something to a young person the other day. I was like, you remember people buy from people. So would you buy from you right now? Like, would that interest you? And he was like, no, I think what I'm saying is a little bit dry. Because
Mm,
you're not using your story. You're not making it exciting. You're not making somebody want to stay longer and hear
mm,
a little bit more about you. And now everybody's putting their life up online.
mm.
Everybody's putting everything about stuff. And so you have to really stand out, and those of us who really know what bits of our life and what bits of our story to sell or to talk about, we might be the ones that someone listens to a little longer. So it's such an
Yeah.
important skill to
I
start
agree.
building.
I agree with you completely, and I'm happy that you brought this up because one thing I want to talk about in this session today is of course the need to build up your LinkedIn platform. That's where the action is happening. That's the most credible of our work-related platforms around the world, right? And this is where you yourself are going to be applying whenever you're applying for internships or part-time jobs, full-time jobs, how to build up your brand. But going back to what Tirzah said, that we're going to talk in a bit about how to craft even an elevator pitch about yourself, okay?
Mhm.
And if you're able to create enough evidence on your platform of who you are, what you do well, okay? Then that also builds up even your own self-confidence of I know what to say, why I'm going to say it, how I'm going to say it, and I'm not suffering from imposter syndrome. This is who I am. I have the evidence to prove it, to support me. Okay.
Yeah.
So even
Yeah.
knowing what you're going to say about yourself will also build up your confidence. With confidence can even come ideally some passion. Okay. To overcome the timidity of selling yourself. To sell any product, you need to know that product and believe in that product. Okay.
100%.
So to
And
believe
that
in
product might
yourself.
be you. This is
That's
the
right.
thing. And I think,
That's right.
and sadly, in education, self-belief and time to really realize how powerful you are because you've talked or you've solved a problem or you've created a new solution to something that's been going on in the school for a long time is often not available. And
Mm,
sadly, those are the things that help us really know our skills and believe in ourselves and know what we're there to achieve, right? But we don't get that opportunity in our schools.
mm,
And then I was just talking yesterday as well to a young girl, and she's like, well, I really need help to sort of manage the market or understand the market of how to put myself out there into the company. She wants to go into HR.
mm,
And she's contacted a lot of companies in HR, and they said, well, you need more experience. And she's like, well, I'm finishing my master's. I've done some work experience as was required. but how can I do more experience unless you hire me? I said, well, you have to show that you have a bit more skills and you have a bit more competencies
Yeah.
than what you're showing.
Yes.
She's like, well, I haven't done any jobs yet other than work at a restaurant, putting myself through my master's program. She's a graduate, soon to be graduate from India, studying in London, and she's just coming up against brick walls where they're saying, we're not going to hire you because you don't have enough experience.
That's
And
right.
it was funny because she said even the application that she applied to, the company said, no experience required, we're taking graduates.
Yes.
And then she goes for the interview, and their response in not taking her is, you don't have enough experience. So,
Yeah.
of course, that's going to knock self-confidence. It's going to make us feel frustrated.
Yeah.
And it makes me feel very frustrated about the education system that we're not giving more experiences within the first 18 years
Yeah.
in project work or community-based projects. You know, if someone wants to go into HR, they should be the leader of the school council for years, you know, so they could walk away with lots of that experience. But I
Right.
said to her, I said, were you ever in your school council or dealing with issues? She said, yes, twice in my universities and in my college. I said, well, there you go. Put that on your CV, stick
There.
that on your LinkedIn. So I don't know if you kind of resonate with where I'm coming from, but this is,
Absolutely.
I think, the main thing of what we're talking about here.
Even more so. That's an excellent example too, because then there's a story there. Okay. So look, for me, the process starts with empathy. Okay. Meaning that if we want something and we need to communicate something that we want, whether it's to be admitted to a university, to be accepted for an internship, a part-time job, a full-time job, whatever it is, we can't be so self-absorbed that we're thinking, me, 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 me. What do I want? Okay. Someone has something that we want. Okay. So then we have to think with empathy, imagining ourselves in their shoes. If we
Okay.
were in their shoes, would would you hire yourself? Especially if you say, we need experience. Okay. We want to know you've made mistakes somewhere else. We want to minimize the mistakes that you make here. So that's why they ask for experience, is that you make your mistakes somewhere else and cost someone else some headaches, whatever it may be. But what I do strategically working with clients, then it's one thing to say, okay, what are your short-term and long-term objectives? Okay, where do you want to go from here and why? Okay, thinking through, right? But then once you start to think through what path you'd like to take, and I'm not saying it's a blood oath that I insist on going this direction, but some general idea, whether you're 16, 17, you're 18, 19, 21, 22, whatever it is, think through in general where you'd like to go and why, to be able to defend and justify. Now to think through, all right, what evidence do I have from my past? Okay, that I have the certain skills that they're looking for. I have the qualifications that they're
Yeah.
looking for. And to be fair to yourself, okay, not to say like that example, I don't have any real HR experience, no real work experience. Like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Do you have any leadership experience?
Yeah.
Do you have any interaction, some team building experience, right?
Yeah.
Well,
Exactly.
so club activities at school. Yeah, I was on the board. So drawing that out, okay? So on the one hand, identifying what evidence you have, and
Yeah.
not just for your CV, identifying with a bullet point, I led this, I did that. From that evidence can also lead to a post, okay? That can lead to a story to bring yourself to life, okay? If you say, "Ooh, this job requires being engaged, a real team player, even leading a team. Let me think through in what circumstances have I done that in the past? Let me unearth that evidence, then let me
Yeah.
illuminate, let me bring it to light." Okay.
That's it. That's
So,
it.
on the one hand, to identify the evidence and bring it to light in terms of back posts, okay, that you could say, I just graduated, or I'm about to, let's say this young woman you're working with, right? And if back at university she did play a leadership role and she does have HR skills without even realizing it, okay? You can
Exactly.
phrase it in a way that I'm now that I'm about to graduate or I just graduated, right? But I'm looking back fondly at some of the most important lessons I learned from my 4 years or 3 years at university, including how I developed my own leadership skills or my team building skills, whatever it is.
Okay.
For
Exactly.
example, as a member of the XYZ committee, where I did ABC, right? Or we had projects like this and that, and I had to organize and lead and inspire, motivate, and so within that post, if you think through what are my core messages, I want to show leadership, I want to show teamwork, I want to show competence, I want to make myself even likable to humanize myself, right? So
Mhm.
that's on the one hand, Tirza, that's to identify what evidence you already have. But now you have short-term, long-term objectives. Like, okay, where are the gaps? What evidence do I need? Okay, moving forward. Like if I were an employer looking for XYZ and you don't have XYZ, is there anything I can do over the coming months or year, if that's my longer term goal, to start to fill those gaps? Or as
Yeah.
I say, create facts on the ground. Okay. And guess what, Tirza, for anyone listening, especially when you're young, I've done this many times where sometimes I do things for free. Okay. I don't just say, oh, I don't have work experience. You know what? If you know you've got a gap and you know
Go
that
do
employers in
volunteering
fields
and
you want,
yeah,
that's right. Then you say, you know what? I will bite the bullet. I will invest in myself, time,
yeah,
effort. Okay. I will
yeah, 100%.
volunteer, but then I will document what I
Yeah.
did, even with selfies of here's me doing XYZ. And no one needs to know that you did it for free. Okay, then you just write about it. You create the written content and even visual content of a photo, and then you write about that. And now you're creating facts on the ground as persuasive evidence.
And in my personal experience and that of my children, when you do something that you volunteer in, you choose something usually that you like, and therefore you generally get connected with that. And 9 times out of 10, they're going to be like, "Oh, can we offer you a paid position because you've become such an asset to our department?" So there's a real benefit for that too, especially when you're young and starting out. Don't be afraid to volunteer or
Yes.
take very low paid apprentice jobs, because that is where you can showcase how brilliant you are and become an asset to that department and their service.
And
And,
and
and additionally, it saves the
yeah.
company a lot of money in recruitment and a lot of money in retraining someone else.
Mm.
They really value what they've gained from you, but also they know that you've gained a lot from them that they don't have to give to somebody else. So it's a really good strategy for young people.
And you know what? You know what? If any young person, including my own kids, were to approach me with, this sort of challenge, I would say, I want you to think in a quite a selfish and self-absorbed, calculating sort of way. Okay. That if you're going to volunteer, of course you can volunteer from the goodness of your heart, from your altruism, right? I have a heart for minorities, for homeless, for the elderly, for children. Of course, volunteer from the heart. But I'm talking strategically. If you're looking to really build up towards something, okay? Then before any opportunity, especially a volunteer opportunity, which is going to require time and effort, think through in a calculating way. Why, how, and why exactly is this good for me? Okay,
Yeah.
so you go in there clear-eyed that I'm going to create a win-win here. Okay, it's not just the employer exploiting cheap labor, slave-like conditions. Okay, taking advantage. Say, no, no, it's a win-win. They get
Yeah.
something, but I'm going to make sure that I document this for 1, 2, 3 LinkedIn posts. I'm going to squeeze this opportunity, okay, that I also benefit from this. And if I always say about volunteerism, about volunteering in the past, that I volunteer if it offers me an opportunity for platform or prestige. If I couldn't do something otherwise on my own, okay? Like I remember, here's just one example. Many years ago, as a freelance journalist, a freelance foreign correspondent, I began writing about media issues, okay, in Central and Eastern Europe, media challenges facing post-communist Central and Eastern Europe. And I was looking for media publications, media magazines to write for. I came across Harvard's Nieman reports. You've all heard of Harvard? It's a pretty darn prestigious university. Anything with Harvard in it, why would you not want that on your resume? Okay, any affiliation with Harvard, right? And so I had a very excited discussion with the editor at the time, talking about the piece I wanted to write from Central and Eastern Europe, right? And then okay, we came up with an agreement, a plan, and then I said, I'm curious, how much do you pay for such a piece? Okay, because money was not the top priority. I was building up my career. I wanted to be published in prestigious publications, and she said, Michael, we believe that being published in our magazine is compensation enough. Okay? In other words, you
So
ain't
they
getting
know their
paid.
worth very, very well.
You ain't getting paid for this. Okay? And guess what? I thought about it. I was like, she's right. She's right. Okay. No one needs to know once my article is published, no one needs to know that I did it for free. But then my article published in Harvard Nieman Reports, okay, a prestigious media related publication. Then that goes on my website. Hey, everyone, here's my latest article published in Harvard Nieman Reports. Prestige
Yeah,
platform that I otherwise, if I'd said, no, 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 I insist on being paid, she would have said, well, take a walk because there's a line out the door of
yeah,
people who would be happy to be
yeah.
published for free. Okay.
Yes,
It's as
yes.
simple as that.
It's very true. It's
Right.
very true.
Right.
It's a
So
good
prestige
point.
your
It's a
platform.
really good point. And I think it links a little bit to any of you young people listening in regard to your self-value and your self-worth. I think that Harvard clearly shows that they have it, and they have many years of expertise and credentials to hold that. But actually, when you know your worth that well, you're going to stand up for yourself in a similar way. And it's really, really important because it gets you far in life.
Hmm.
Why should you hire me? Well, I'll tell you because I'm the best one you're going to find, and here's why. The same as Harvard says, well, why should you do it for free? Because we're the best you're going to have on your resume. So off you go. So it really is a mindset. So make sure you think about where your mindset is in regard to standing up for yourself, whether you're volunteering, whether you're going for a job, you're going to do something because it gives you that prestige, as Michael says, but also adds to your own self-belief and self-worth. Because I'm sure you feel that little bit more self-worth every time you see that article with Harvard underneath it as
Yeah.
well, because it was published.
Yes.
So it's all, very similar thing happened to me with the Royal Society in Scotland, with my paper on making learning visible. It was very much a collaborative affair, and I didn't get money for it, but it's something that I will forever hold dear because it's a recognized name on the bottom of my paper, my work. So
Now,
it's
just
very, very important.
you brought up another point, actually, which is, if we were to dare say, I'm the best candidate for the job. Okay. I've worked with many different people from around the world, let's say like the Chinese, who would be very uncomfortable with bragging. Okay. Many cultures are, hey, we're taught to be humble, to be modest. I'm not comfortable with the salesmanship required with, hey, hire me, I'm the best. Okay. And what I say is it's not bragging if it's a fact. Okay. And so the key to my approach is that you're welcome to say whatever you want about yourself as long as you can back it up with facts, back it up with evidence. Okay.
Mhm,
Right. So
mhm.
that's why, as we go on with this session, I'm going to talk about the need for evidence. What kind of evidence? Concrete, meaning specific, credible, meaning believable, and even verifiable, meaning somehow can be proven, which we then present transparently. Okay. And here's a little example. For example, some students may be uncomfortable with saying, I'm excellent at physics. It's like, ooh, that's bragging. Well, do you have evidence to prove that? Well, yeah, I won a national competition, or
There
I,
you go. I've
okay, so
got
it did.
straight A's the entire 4 years or
That's
whatever.
right. That's right. So you state that. You back it up with evidence. You don't, as we say in journalism, show them, don't just tell them. Okay, right? So that's how you prove you're the best or the most qualified or even just an ideal candidate. It's a bit much to say I'm the best, but certainly to say I believe I'm a strong candidate, comma, because, and then
Yes.
you hit them with the evidence to prove, to persuade them that you are the
And
best.
you've mentioned the sort of difference in culture, and that's a huge one because I think Chinese is quite the extreme. So people from Asia are definitely taught to be very contrite and humble in their communications about themselves. But even if we go midway and we go to the UK, it's not respected or that person doesn't stand out in the room if they are bragging about something that they've achieved.
Hmm.
It's rare for people to say, oh, yes, we respect that person more. Whereas I know the complete opposite is over in the US, where there's a lot of confidence to make these big and bold statements. And I believe it's that there's a really beautiful sort of middle line, like you said, around backing it up and authenticity. And sometimes even the adjectives can be left out. We don't have to say best, excellent, expert, etc. We can just say, following my 20 years of, or following my 4 years of, I have shown ability to achieve in this. And here's some examples of excellence that I, can showcase.
Yes.
And just that alone kind of is almost like a quiet confidence that is without the need to use this big bravado that maybe some cultures find maybe difficult and worse yet off-putting. But it's around the authenticity, I think, that really
Yeah.
cuts through.
It's funny, even just as a very quick example, you kindly introduced me as a global communications expert. Okay. Now I've thought about the difference in terminology between introducing myself as a global communications expert versus a global communications specialist.
Right.
Specialist is more factual, okay? Whereas expert is, well, according to whose definition, okay? Whose opinion. And so I decided I'll refer to myself as a global communications specialist and let others decide whether I'm an expert or not, okay? I'm not
There
going to
you go.
stop you
There you
there.
go.
Tirzah. You're welcome to call me an expert in the field, okay?
Sure.
You
Well, I
know,
think you are from the conversations we've had, but additionally, my colleague, will say to me, oh, Tirzah is the expert in education, but
mm,
that's her calling me that.
yeah,
And
yeah,
yes, I know a lot about it. I've done it for 30 years.
yeah,
I've researched it, but I'm going to say that I am a education professional, I am an education advisor, consultant, there's different words that we use. I'm
yeah.
actually a word consultant. But it is all about words, kids. And
Yes.
this is the thing that's really important to think about is the words that you use and how you shape that story and frame yourself really makes that first impression or that ongoing impression of who you are.
Yes. And let me get back to focus on delivering value for the listeners here, for the viewers here, okay?
Yes.
Because at the heart of everything that I do, as I've already indicated, is evidence, okay? And let me explain why evidence is so important, okay? Big picture, why this matters, why strategic communications matters, all right? Why you need to start thinking strategically, okay? I have been very fortunate to have lived on 4 continents, okay? And producing storytelling from 4 continents, whether it's journalistic or communications. And I've learned that in the world, there are basically 2 audiences in the world today, okay? There is the more sheep-like audience, okay, which follows blindly, unthinkingly, okay? If you tell them, for example, this is the best phone as an advertisement, hey, buy this phone, it's the best. Or there's a pizzeria on the corner here in New York City that says New York's #1 pizza, okay? Now, who's going to believe about the phone, about the pizza and all that would be someone who's not a thinking person, but just like, okay, if they said it, it must be so, right? Or they follow charismatic leaders. Why do you vote for this person? I like him. Okay. So sheep-like, I'm thinking, and they may be, with all due respect, they may be some of our family and friends, sheep-like, okay? On the other hand, are the critical thinkers, okay? Who are thinking skeptically, reflexively. You tell them something, is it true? Maybe, maybe not. And guess what? They put the onus on you, the responsibility on you. If I want my audience to believe me, then I must work hard, I say intellectually speaking, to prove myself, to support it with evidence. Okay? Smart but skeptical. And I realize that from my own content creation, there's only two ways for us to touch the mind of a skeptical audience. One is with that credible, believable audience. A skeptic stroking their chin thoughtfully. I'm reading something. I'm hearing something from you. Should I believe it or not? Then we hit them with multiple pieces of credible evidence. And okay, they start nodding their head if they're open-minded enough. Someone could be skeptical and closed-minded, which means it's hopeless to try to persuade them. But if they're skeptical with an open mind, then they can be touched. Their minds can be touched by by the credible evidence. The second thing is then the humanizing content can touch the hearts of a skeptic. Okay, to illuminate, to shed light onto our shared humanity. Okay.
Hmm.
And this is
Hmm.
maybe subject for another day, but the idea of why even humanize ourselves? Okay, why even show photos of ourselves, especially close-ups? I always say, get the eyes, okay, because the eyes are the window onto the soul, okay, to draw in someone to want to read the content, consume the content, okay? So our target audience, guess what? For all of us listening here right now, your target audience is the second audience, okay? Is that higher, more elite audience. And you know why? This is why it matters. Because in life, you're always going to be facing that elite audience. They are employers they're not sheep-like. They are skeptical of hundreds, even thousands of applicants to their university or for internships, for jobs. Okay. So we must work hard to persuade them, right? To touch their minds with our credible evidence. They are, maybe some of you say, oh, I have $1 million idea. Okay. I got a business idea. Guess what? To persuade investors. Investors are skeptical thinkers. They're not going
Yeah.
to automatically write a check, okay, to fund your project. Or you say, I want to create a nonprofit to support the homeless or to support migrants, to support whomever, right? I need donations. I need donors. Guess what? Skeptical audience, okay, high level to persuade them. So throughout your life, you're always going to have to persuade a skeptical audience. Then the
Hmm.
question is how to do that. Because every company, organization, government agency, professionals, Tirzah and we all have a self-interest in saying that we're good at what we do. Very few of us would say, I'm quite mediocre at what I do, but hire me anyway. Or buy my product anyway. It's mediocre, but buy it. No, no,
Except Taco Bell.
we 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 all have a strong self-interest to present ourselves that way. And guess what? We all need to deflect. This is now a question of media literacy. We ourselves need to sharpen our deflectors of what's flying at us every day online. There's so much scamming and fraudsters, misinformation, disinformation, that on the one hand, we ourselves need to become more skeptical in identifying what's real, what's not real, who's
Yeah.
credible, who's not credible. And now we're turning this around, which is while we need to become more skeptical and savvy consumers of content, how about when we create content? We should then embrace that same standard, which is, you know what? I'm not appealing to sheep. Okay. I'm
Yeah.
appealing to smart people. So I better hit them with some facts, some
Yeah.
credible evidence about myself. Okay.
Thought.
Go ahead.
Thought. Years ago, when I was a small girl,
Yeah.
one of the key learning lessons that my mother put in front of us was standing in front of a group of people and talking to them.
Yes.
because she felt that that was important for credibility, for growth, for life.
Mm,
For me, I never found that so difficult, but
mm,
other people, other brothers and sisters of mine, found it really hard.
mm.
Nowadays, it's a little bit more a thing because, kids are in bigger communities, schools are bigger, whatever. I'm sure there's still shy kids. I know there are, and it's difficult to stand up in front. But as we get older, it's more and more common. But now I think the key learning, especially linked to getting jobs,
Mm.
isn't standing up in front of people necessarily at first. It's everything that you showcase here. And so there's a whole new learning level on being willing to talk in front of a camera. And I know that that's been a big learning for me.
Mm.
But to show that it's not AI or fake news or something generated that's not really authentically you, then
Yeah.
sometimes the best way is you talking like we're doing now. What do
Mm.
you think about that? And what advice shall we give? I think both are key learning aspects. I'm not trying to dumb down the face-to-face communication,
Yeah.
but it's a lesson that we're all used to learning and used to having to go through. But
Yes.
this whole talking about yourself online and actually being the real you in front of a camera and a person
Yes.
can see your face
Yeah.
rather than just something that maybe AI made.
Yeah.
It's going to bring much more authenticity, but it's a little bit scary, to sit there and go, oh, I'm going to
Yeah. Yeah.
tell everybody or tell the
Yeah.
world something.
You know what? This is why with my own kids, I'm talking about, that every study shows in terms of soft skills. Okay.
Mhm.
You know, that I don't know if I like the term really soft skills because it sounds soft versus hard skills of
Actually, one
I'm
of them,
learning.
some of the most important skills in the world
Yeah.
are these
Yeah.
soft
Hard
skills.
skills could be, I'm studying medicine, I'm studying the law, I'm studying engineering or banking. All right. These are concrete or science, whatever, STEM. These are specific and highly skilled knowledge, right? But soft skills, if you read any leading publication talking about what are the top 10 skills that young people
Yeah,
need, right?
they're all the
Certainly,
soft skills.
yeah, especially communication skills. Okay.
Yes,
So, you know what? If you say, but I'm a little shy, I'm a little introverted, you know what? Get over it.
you have
Okay.
to. And these are
Just
some things like when we were kids
practice.
and we're standing in front of a big audience or whatever, and my mom is saying, talk to people,
Yeah.
and you're nervous. Well, it's the same now with this, you can't be shy. You have to get on a camera. You have to join a podcast. You have to stick your face up on
And
LinkedIn.
And I assure you, it will get easier the more you do it. Okay.
Yeah,
Because just as a quick
yes.
example, when I was a young reporter graduating from journalism school, age 21, 22, and I used to go to press conferences, let's say, okay, as a young reporter, I was nervous, I was sweating, okay, but I would force myself. I promised myself that at every press event, I will force myself to ask at least one question. Okay.
Nice.
And I'd
Yeah,
be there in the crowd. There'd be cameras, there'd be microphones, there'd be me with my notepad, my pen and notepad. And I would have butterflies in my stomach. I would feel quite physically ill, okay? And like heart racing and all that. But I got to ask a question because this is the field that I want to be recognized. I want them to know that, oh, who's this young guy? He's a reporter with such and such local paper, okay? So I forced myself to do that. Okay. It's
yeah,
like eating your vegetables. You
yeah,
need this. Okay. But I
yeah,
want to help you through this. Okay. That we can get to the elevator pitch. Okay. Because I have a certain method by which, look, we can start to identify what to say about ourselves, why to say that, and how to say it. So that then when you believe in your own words and you rehearse a bit, you start to feel more confident. And it's
yeah,
okay to be nervous and to sweat and then to go to some faculty function, let's say within your department, okay? Or if you're in high school and it's university nights and you got different universities visiting, pitching their universities, like, okay, let me put on a nice shirt, not the t-shirt with the spaghetti sauce stain, but let me get, let me think through strategically what do I want to say about myself? Why do I want to say it? And how do I want to say it? Okay.
yeah. And
Five
we're going to have a
sentences,
whole workshop on that in the
seven
next
sentences.
round, isn't it? So we're going to be
That's right.
doing
That's
elevator pitch, and some top tips on creating those origin stories and
that's
how
right.
they should flow,
That's right.
and that strategic storytelling.
So I can share a few skills right now and a couple
Please do.
examples right
Yes.
now. Okay. Even using my son. Okay. Yes. He's not going to be
Amazing.
happy about it, that he's going to be my lab rats. Okay. Okay. That we're going to experiment on him, but
Send him
he
a thank you
understands.
chocolate.
He understands it's a small price to pay to be my son. Okay. In this situation. But, as as I tell my kids and I tell all of you on LinkedIn, again, where we must all be. Ideally, one day, soon enough, you will all build your own websites. Okay, that's where in the old days we say
Yeah.
to hang a shingle. Okay, if you were the tailor or the smith or whatever, you would have a wood shingle hanging outside your shop. We all need now to hang a shingle somewhere in the world where we can be found. Okay, when we start handing out cards or exchanging contact information, right? And if you don't have a website, LinkedIn at least is an excellent substitute to build up your own platform, right?
That's
But
right.
on LinkedIn, I want you to know that we each face three main challenges on LinkedIn before I show you how to overcome those challenges, okay? Is even on LinkedIn, I love LinkedIn. I'm literally visiting LinkedIn and spending quite a bit of time every single day on LinkedIn, okay? But I'm also being approached by scammers every day on LinkedIn. One, two, promising me the world. Okay, we can do this for your consultancy. We can do that and all that. All of them with a whiff of the scammy. Okay, right? So we all need to prove three things about ourselves online. First of all, that we are who we say we are. Okay, because it's so easy, as you all know, how easy it is to create a fake profile. Okay, so we got to prove that we are who we say we are. Second, that we must prove that we do what we say we do, combined with that we've actually done what we say we've done. All right, not just
Yeah.
the words. Words are cheap in the online world, okay? But to provide some evidence to prove when I say I did XYZ last year, I need some visual evidence. Oh, I didn't create it at the time. Let's do it now because now we identified our short and long term objectives. And now we realize it makes sense for us to start to build that foundation of content. And the
Yeah.
third is the most difficult thing to prove. Okay, so we proved who we are and that we do what we do. How do we prove that we are as good as we claim to be? Again, because we all have that self-interest to claim that we are excellent or as talented as we are, as we claim to be, as skilled, as knowledgeable, as experienced, as impactful. Okay, we're all at least hinting that I'm really good at what I do. How do you prove that you're really good? Not just doing what you say you're doing, right? So those are the three main challenges. Okay. Now let me I can share this.
While you're sharing your screen, I just want to say one thing. I
Yeah.
was in a field of leadership in education for many, many years. I
Yeah.
ran lectures at least daily
Yeah.
for 15, 20 years across London.
Yeah.
Never once did I get photographs or immediate feedback from
Yeah.
people because I just did it because it was my job and I loved it. I
Yeah.
had immediate feedback all the day long and lots of phone calls and emails, but never anything recorded. So now when I want to showcase all that I've done, it's me telling the story.
Mm,
So there's a lesson for you all. It's not proud, it's not self-centered, and it's not self-effacing
mm.
to say, oh, do you mind just giving me a little feedback? Or can I take a picture of all of us
Yeah.
here?
Yeah.
To record and document what you do because it is your sort of, it's like a diary of your work life, your
Document. It
record.
is documenting that I was here. I did this.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
right? And
exactly.
so and it's not, one major affliction of modern society is narcissism, falling in love with ourselves. Like, hey, look at what I ate. Look at what I wore. Look at this. Look at that.
That's not what we're talking about, though.
Yeah, exactly. I'm talking about strategically when on any given day, you could post about 100 different things. Okay. But we pick and choose wisely how we spend our time for us to even think through, oh, I need to post about something. Why? Why exactly is it worth my time and effort to create that content? Ah, because it satisfies this objective or that
Right.
objective. This is going to serve me well. Okay.
That's right.
Now, let
That's
me
right.
share my screen. Okay. First of all, with LinkedIn. Okay. This is mine. All right. Now, I know that we're aiming this podcast at the younger generation. Okay. So I'm a middle-aged dude. So this isn't so relevant, except to say that whatever I say about myself up here, okay, everything I say about myself, I back up with evidence, with facts, with posts, okay? Global communications advisor to organizations. Ooh, you know what? Anyone could make that up. I'm an astronaut and a World Cup footballer, and I do this, I do that. Can you prove it? Right? So going through one by one, brand building executive coach, China and Africa specialist, okay? Or strategic storytelling, author of, this is my newsletter. Everything that I've written there, I support, okay? I back it up. And if you were to look at my posts, okay?
There's
Okay.
our failed live.
Yes. But if you were to look at my posts, okay, everything I do of value, I document somehow. Okay. Oh, sorry, that's a little too much Tirzah right there. Okay.
We'll edit that out.
All Tirzah all the time. But even, for example, even just last week, I went to a major UN conference on fashion sustainability. And you know what? I posted something. Why? Because guess what? This is another one of my specialties is fashion sustainability storytelling. And guess what? If I think about who my target audience is, potential clients, I want to show I have a finger on the pulse of the industry, of the trends going on. Okay. So I'm there writing about what was there, what was so interesting, what was so meaningful, lessons learned. And so I post a couple hundred words, okay, right? And then I include some of my photos, okay? And there you go. And oh, including myself there, okay, to show myself there, but also some of the speakers. Here's the agenda, okay? You see what I mean, okay? Just as one example. But what I want to
Mhm.
show you is someone more relatable to you guys. Can you see my son now? This is my
I
son,
sure can.
okay? This is my son, Kenda. Okay, and he is a student. Sorry to my son now. I'm disclosing his identity and all that. Okay, he is. He just finished his second year, his sophomore year at Rutgers University in New Jersey, in the School of Engineering. Okay, this is him. I always say you should have a nice portrait photo and then something you in action. This happens to be his older brother, my older son, and this is them in front of. I said, also, do you have a photo of you even in front of the university? Again, evidence that you are who you say you are, doing what you say you're doing. Again, anyone
Mhm.
could drive up to Harvard and take a photo of themselves in front of a Harvard sign, but that's just one little brick of evidence in the foundation. Okay. Now, with my son, you'll see here he's a mechanical engineering major. I also said, hey, let's say aspiring mechanical engineer. That's talking about your goal is to one day be employed in that field. Okay. Right. Now, I asked him, he was recently here staying with me after the end of the school year. Okay. For 10 days we were together. And I said, okay, so this summer he has other plans, but by next summer, after his junior year, we're talking about a serious internship. Okay, it's time to grow up, all right, and get ready for the world of work. Okay, you got 2 more years to go. So let's think about next summer and how to land you an internship. Okay, and so we worked on his about section. Okay. You're all welcome to visit his platform and to invite him to connect, what have you. Okay. But I said I came up with 5 steps.
Yes.
I should tell you the strategy because then I wrote about this strategy. This is from my website, how to craft an elevator pitch that subtly delivers your core messages. Okay. So this about section, which I'll show you, I should explain first the strategy behind it. Okay. Which is, and this is, of course, a photo of us at a football game at his university. Okay. That what I'm offering you is a 2-for-1, which is your elevator pitch, which is, I don't know if you're even familiar with the term. It's the idea of if you happen to be standing next to someone in front of an elevator going up to the 10th floor, let's say, and they happen to be a big boss in your field and you would love to work for them. And you've got basically 10 flights in which time you must say, "Hi, my name is, I do XYZ. I'd be an ideal fit for your company because," let's say,
Yep.
you've got
Yep.
you've got however many
6 floors
seconds.
maximum.
That's right. So then
Yeah.
how to craft that elevator pitch so you deliver your core messages about yourself. And then what the way I do it is once you can articulate that, you can also put that in writing as your about section. Okay. Because we've refined what it is we're going to say about ourselves. But scrolling down, I came up with these 5 steps. Here, I'll blow this up so you can see it. Okay. As I said before, first of all, before you start writing, "Hi, my name is," think through, wait a minute, wait a minute. There's going to be an audience here, okay,
Yeah.
reading this. So let me think through, who am I? What do I want to squeeze out of this LinkedIn platform? Okay. My short-term, long-term goals. Okay. Second, who will be reading this content? Ideally, okay, or, oh, I want to include my LinkedIn platform for employers. Okay. Third, to craft your core messages that you will aim at that target audience. Okay. That's a whole process too. Michael, how do I craft my core messages? Okay. Number 4, then how to unearth your concrete, credible evidence to support your messages. So it's not just words, right? And then number 5, to combine the messages with your evidence and then weave it into humanizing content about yourself. Okay. That's my 5-step process, right? So
Well,
with
I hope you all were writing that down because that's really, really powerful. And we will
screenshots,
go
they
into
don't need
it
to write it down. Yeah.
or
Yeah.
screenshot it, whatever you need to do. Take a photo of it. That's what I should do.
Okay.
Um, it's a beautiful step by step there
Okay.
for making that elevator pitch. Excellent.
And by the way, we've promised, Tirzah and I have a plan 2 weeks from today,
Yeah.
a fortnight away, as the Brits would say, that we will then we'll have a content creation session. Okay. Because recognizing that it's one thing for me to say, follow these 5 steps, and you're like, but how exactly do I implement them? Michael, could you show me how to? We all
That's
need
it. That's
coaches,
it.
mentors to lead us through the process sometimes. So that's what we'll do in 2 weeks, which is with real examples, show how we take a lump of clay and mold it into something that is more beautiful. All right. But with my
Lovely.
son, I walked him through this process. What are your short-term, long-term objectives? I asked him. Short term, I want an excellent internship next summer. Long term, I want that to help position me to get a decent paying job after school in a field I care about, I'm passionate about, engineering. Okay, that's reasonable, right? Who would be your target audience? I asked, right? Well, anyone hiring interns, anyone hiring recent graduates. That's right. And who are they? What are they? They are skeptical. They're not going to hire bums. They're not going to hire posers, okay? Or fakes, fraudsters. They want you to prove that you are as good as you claim to be, okay? Right? Smart but skeptical target audience. Core messages. First of all, that you are serious about engineering, okay? You didn't choose this major willy-nilly. Ooh, then how to prove I'm serious? Do you have evidence to prove that you are serious? Do you have evidence to prove that you're good as a student, that you're smart, that you're achieving, okay, in any way, right? Let's think through, right? Then, and like I said, unearthing your concrete, credible evidence to prove that. Okay, this is a no BS zone. Okay. Our BS deflector. I don't know if we should say BS for the younger crowd, but
I don't
that's
think
what
it's
I
a
call it.
problem.
What's that?
I don't think it's a problem. We talk
Bullshit.
real. We
We're
talk
this
real on this podcast.
this is also about having a finely tuned bullshit deflector. Okay.
Mhm.
When we consume, we want to be as smart as possible, as skeptical as possible. But when we create, we also assume, let's aim for that smart but skeptical audience. Okay.
And that's where we continually need to remind ourselves about being really reflective, on what it is we're thinking, what it is we're learning, being really open to other people's opinions,
Yes.
while at the same time blocking the ones that are not really real or relevant. And the only way we do that is by being active and present in our society, in our job, in our learning, in our work,
Mm.
being very present. So it's a big, big point.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tears. And so with my son, thinking through again, short-term, long-term objectives, and what do you want to say about yourself, right? So not just that you're serious, but that you're smart, that you're unique, but also giving some ideas to what you're looking for and why. Okay? Right? So here's going back to his about section. If we go even paragraph by paragraph, now you'll start to recognize even some of the strategy behind it. All right. A mechanical engineering major. Wait, let me make this larger. Okay. Can you see? A
Mhm.
mechanical engineering major in the Rutgers University School of Engineering. Will soon seek an internship that combines my deepening passions for both mechanical engineering and sociology. Be as clear as possible. Here's who I am. Here's what I'm looking for, right? And also, since one day I'd like to apply my engineering skills to somehow help solve some of society's real life challenges. This is what kind of engineering he'd be looking for, right? Now, a little bit of background, as Tirzah and I gave, even to introduce ourselves, a bit of relevant context, and also what makes us unique, why it may be worth listening to us, okay? So this is for my son. As for my background, I've been fortunate enough to have already lived on 4 continents, following my parents for their careers. This is maybe to make him a little more memorable. Okay. Wow. This kid lived on 4 continents. Yes, he did. He has so far. I've lived in, okay, Slovakia, Lesotho, China, Turkey, Switzerland, and today New Brunswick, New Jersey. Okay. He's bilingual and also speaks some French and Chinese. And by the way, enjoys diversity. Guess what? Diversity is kind of important in the world today. Some people are
There
hiring
is.
specifically, right? So get that little message in there too. He has a diverse background as evidence. So he embraces, okay? Academically, I asked to my son, are you smart? How do we prove that you're smart? Okay, or achieving, right? Academically, I'm proud to say that after my first 2 years at Rutgers, I've twice earned my way onto the dean's list. Okay. Achieving A's in crucial courses like physics, chemistry, and calculus. Guess what? I told my son, I said, when it's announced that you are on, because again, anyone can say they're on the dean's list. Okay. Do you have proof? Ah, that's right. At some point, when grades are final and the semester is officially over, he will receive some email like he did last year. Okay. And I said, screenshot or could be a selfie of you with, it may sound a little corny. Okay. I'm not saying put that as a lead photo and all that, but it could be worth a little post saying, I'm so proud of how I performed this year, achieving Dean's List once again, kind of thing, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Again, foundational
Beautiful. And it
evidence.
really is because the world is getting smaller and smaller, and people are traveling all over the place, right? And new people are coming in. If we go back into the early settlers' time, we had, referrals or references because somebody grew up with somebody or someone knew someone for forever and ever. And even up until about 20 odd years ago, it was very much that way. You kind of stayed within your community and maybe you worked at the same place that dad did or whatever it might be, right?
Right.
And now we don't have that often. You're trying to do something completely on your own from a very young age. And it's so important to have evidence of what you've achieved because,
Yes.
like you said, anyone could just say it.
And I'm going
So
to show
it's
you.
so vital.
Good. Thank you. I agree completely. Of course. That's why we're so simpatico because we agree on these major
Muy
issues. But
simpático.
that's right. Now, going back to this profile, I'm not saying it's a perfect little profile, okay? But it's thought through with every sentence being somehow justified and defensible, okay? Because then next, this year, I was also a member of the sociology club, which sparked my desire to contribute to society. So even to explain this merging of engineering and society, sociology, a little hint of that, okay? And I'll also talk about origin story, our need for an origin story, so he can elaborate when he has more space. There's limited space here. So just touching on, wow, why engineering and society? Okay, he took a course. It's not that he's had this passion his entire life. He's talking about his own evolution here, okay? And now here with this sentence, sorry, with this sentence, he's even talking about, he's still a young guy, only finished his sophomore year. Some ideas to which fields, perhaps in fields like product design, human-centered engineering, technical, blah, blah, blah. Last paragraph, okay? Meanwhile, I performed so well during my first year physics course that I was chosen to serve as a learning assistant to the new crop of physics students throughout this past year. Teaching and mentoring has now become a new passion of mine, so I'll continue as in LA during my junior year. Hey, I think this is something that sets him apart. It's evidence that he did so well that the department chose him to teach their freshman year students. And why not talk about even leadership, teaching,
Yeah,
mentoring, right?
yeah,
Having a heart for others. This is also to make him a little likable. Oh, that's nice. He's teaching the younger students, okay, right? And then
yeah.
lastly, among my other extracurricular activities, I'm pleased to now serve a leadership role as board member of the Board Games Club. Okay?
Love
Just,
it. So
oh, I
important. It
love
doesn't matter
skiing.
what you're organizing. It's the organizing of something that makes the difference. The transferable skills.
There's that
Beautiful.
he could absolutely get into. Okay. I mean, obviously on your CV, you can say, I love skiing, I love hiking, I love photography. You can mention those things. This is just one little detail, but it shows that he's not just about the grades, a little diversity, a little variety, right? Now, what I told him, again, for those of you listening, okay? So we went through this, and like I said, every sentence serves a purpose, right? I said, next time, just imagine. I'm also visualizing with him that next year I said, you should join the engineering students club, for example. Okay, that may be missing to show your even deepening seriousness, right? I imagine him going to an event by the department, a wine and cheese gathering with professors or with potential employers. They may have
Mhm.
internship day, job fairs, right?
Yeah,
And I said,
beautiful.
read this, read this, rehearse a little so you feel good about, okay, this is who I am, this is what I want to say, and then practice your handshake. A nice firm grip. You don't need to crush any bones, but look them in the eye and say, if they ask you the question, Kenda, tell me about yourself. Okay. I'm not saying you memorize like a robot, but at least if you hit half of this, it's like that's a nice little
Very important.
introduction about yourself, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Now, that is about your platform. I want to just briefly mention what our audience can do even today, which is to start to create what I call essential proof. Okay.
Okay. Yes.
So we wrote this. Okay. We worked on this one together. Okay. This post right here. Okay. Which is that I said, do you have any evidence? Again, evidence of your passion, not just Dean's List. Okay. Do you have any evidence of your passion for engineering? Did you, for example, build anything this year? Okay. In one of your classes? He said, actually, I did. In my mechatronics class, I had to ask, what is mechatronics? In my intro to mechatronics class, our team built a coin counter change sorter machine. Okay. Applying what they learned in class. I said, did you take a photo? He said, yes, I did, because I knew that you would ask me if I took a photo of myself with the machine. Okay.
Excellent.
So we worked on this post to talk about, and here's the way we framed it after finishing my second year. Okay. I'm reviewing the year's many highlights, and one was certainly my Intro to Mechatronics course. You can even tag the name of your professor. Okay. Talking about my teammates. We did this, we did that. And there's the photo. I call this essential proof.
That
One
is so
piece is not going to
important.
be enough to persuade, but these are all bricks. This is you pouring the cement of your brand, of your identity, that then brick by brick, okay, you start to persuade your target audience that you are who you say you are, doing what you say you've done, and even that you're good as you claim to be, as you appear to be.
That's a
Okay.
beautiful example of some of the things we've talked about in regard to
Okay.
recording everything and being willing to get behind the camera, whether it's a still shot or a video, to
Great.
showcase what you're doing and what you've learned or what you've experienced.
And just to let you know, for those of you who want more information, feel free to visit my website because I also wrote about the strategy behind the essential proof, posts that build the foundation of your brand. Okay, step by step. All right. So now, Tirzah, I'm sorry. What were your two last
No, not at all.
points? Go ahead.
I just wanted to ask, so
Yeah.
if you could sum up in a word, so this young person,
Mm.
you as a listener have just joined this course
Yeah.
and you're thinking, I've just heard only about LinkedIn and there's
Yeah.
tons of other platforms.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot. I watched a whole course on the importance of just putting up lots of YouTube channels,
Yeah.
videos.
Yeah.
So why are we focusing on LinkedIn? Because I think if we really can highlight the why this is so important, it will
Yeah.
really help them focus in onto what they're putting in their content.
Yeah.
So why is this
Why?
platform the
Why?
one that we're really focusing on?
Well, it goes back to what I said before. One of my favorite words is credibility,
Hmm.
believability. And nowadays, LinkedIn, I'm a fan overall. It's not a perfect platform, but I'm a fan of its credibility, of its
Yeah,
seriousness. And now instinctively, look, for young people out there, it's important for you to understand the mindset of our generation, those who may be hiring you or admitting you to our university, whatever the case may be, right? Which
yeah,
is whenever I meet people, yesterday I met people throughout the day here in New York City having to do with African events. And guess what? I'm going to immediately go to their LinkedIn profile. Okay?
yeah.
And I'm like, oh, are they really who they say they're? I'm not going to immediately consume everything as truth, as gospel, but I start to see more photos and posts of what of them appearing to do things. And guess what? The formula for me with the target audience is we all have a natural wall of suspicion between strangers. Okay. You see me, you see Tirzah. Why the heck should I believe this person? We have a wall of suspicion and skepticism. Our challenge with strategic communications is how to lower that wall of skepticism and suspicion,
Yeah. So important.
how to build a bridge of trust step by step, okay, which then helps to reduce the risk of partnership. Okay.
Hmm.
So I got
Hmm.
the skepticism. You may not want to hire my son. Why should I? How do I know he's ideal? You start to read the website step by step. I trust this kid
Yeah.
more and more. And then there's a risk to hiring anyone that they turn out to
Sure.
be a nightmare, a disaster, and damaging your reputation because you hired them or admitted them, right? So then how to reduce that risk of partnership, of hiring, of
Mhm.
investing, of donating, that sort of thing. And
To the
so
wrong
just,
person.
I know it's a
That's so
long-winded
important.
response,
Such an important point. And
but
it's almost
LinkedIn,
like I know a lot of people have also said, like, you don't need to give me your CV, just give me your LinkedIn profile.
there you
And
go.
I've had a lot of companies say
There
that.
you go.
So really, really important.
Yeah,
Your point around the credibility, the trusted platform. YouTube, sure, it's a nice way to document loads and loads of things about yourself and raise a personal brand,
yeah.
or on other platforms. But we also are tempted to put maybe more of our personal stuff or maybe things we're doing that are fun. And so we clutter it with things that aren't really going to pinpoint that elevator pitch to a possible employer or university that says, oh, this is the excellence of this person. You
Well,
know, it's wonderful to tell the story through others, and you can always have a link tree or something that links to other platforms that you're creating.
you're absolutely right. And you know what, Tirzah, I'm glad you brought this up because I would want your audience to know too, especially the young people out there. LinkedIn, I want you to view LinkedIn on the one hand, of course, it's your online CV, right? It's a place that it's a credible platform for you to then identify yourself and start to build your brand, right? But also, you become your own publisher and editor in chief. It is your platform, and you can put
Yes.
whatever you want. All I urge you to do is to publish stuff up there that makes sense to help you achieve what you want to achieve and to build your brand in the direction that benefits you. So, I would also say, if you love photography or calligraphy or writing short stories or you make TikTok videos, you can put those on your LinkedIn. But I would
Yeah.
say, just think through why and say, hey,
It's a strategic way.
one of my core
Yeah.
messages I would want employers to know is that I'm creative. Okay. Or, for example, I think outside the box. Okay. Or I'm not just work, 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 study, study, study. I have various interests and
Yeah.
passions. These are
Hmm.
subtle messages that then you can start to post other stuff that makes you cool. And also, right now, if you're even in just in high school or university and you busted your butt to produce a history paper or an economics paper, or you wrote a beautiful piece of fiction, you can publish that and you should publish that because that could also showcase your research skills,
Yeah.
fact gathering skills, your interviewing skills, your writing, your storytelling. You're proud of it. Don't just let it go to waste that, hey, I got a B or an A on the paper. Take that and republish it on your website. If you're proud of it and you feel like, no, this says something of value about me, publish it.
That was the last question I was going to ask is what other types of evidence can young people be putting up? And I was thinking things like you've just explained or
Yes,
given the example for, you know,
absolutely.
papers you've written, photographs of a bake sale that you helped to organize, and, you know, you're planning
Yeah,
scratch notes or
yeah,
whatever
yeah,
that you had. You know, that's
yeah.
all evidence, even from young high school age, that
That's
shows
right.
that you are, you know, like for example, my son, when he was in high school, he organized it's a concert, but nobody's singing. It's a miming concert. That's what it was. They just had the music and people were miming and people had headphones. So it was like this silent miming concert.
Yeah,
And he did it because he just had this crazy idea.
yeah.
And now to this day, the school still does it every single year because it was such a success.
Mm,
So he puts on his CV and his LinkedIn,
mm.
the founder of the now most popular year event in college, you know.
Wow. Wow.
And it's beautiful, you know, he's got photos of it up there. He's got little testimonials,
Yeah.
you know, and he was a 15-year-old kid when he did it.
Yeah.
But, you know, this is a real claim to his ability to be creative, to be a leader, to be a problem solver. And he
And
went back to visit that
it's great.
college some while ago, and they were like, "Oh, well, make sure you come on the night we're doing that event."
That's right. That's
That was
right.
really nice. Yeah.
And like you said, even, you may say, "Oh, I don't have talents like that. I haven't done something so unique like that." But when you really start to think about your activities, and I'm talking to the young people specifically, a bake sale. Why?
That's it.
Well, we wanted to raise money for Ukrainian refugee children with this NGO, let's
And
say,
that's huge.
okay? Or
That's
we
huge.
gather used clothing and we take them to the local shelter or whatever. You know what? That could be something that all of you, me, my friends and I, with our bags of clothes or at a bake sale, and then you start to think through why post it? What
Yeah,
is the real value? What's the core message there, or the symbolism of what exactly you're doing? Wow, it opens a window onto my heart. There are
that's
ways
it.
to open a window onto your mind, the way your mind works, right? Intellectually. Let me show this. There are ways to open a window onto your heart and to show that with visual/written evidence that you post on your LinkedIn.
And just remember, youngsters, that the things that you're doing in your side activities, adults get paid to do in large organizations, like organizing big bake sales or bringing clothes to homeless people, etc. There are huge
That's,
organizations that have people that do that. So there are a number of skills that you will be gaining, showcasing,
yeah,
and honing as you do it.
yeah,
So document it and be proud of it,
yes, I
you
agree.
know.
So,
Even if it's that you are known on the school playground as the mediator between quarrels, start thinking really deeply about the things that make you shine and what makes you have a superpower in your space.
and you know what? For next time, just moving this forward to part two of this podcast, okay? I don't know about Tirzah, but I would be happy if anyone watching this wants to become a lab rat. Okay. And says, Michael, do me. Okay,
Let's do ours together.
here's
Yes,
what I want, right? And maybe I'm not sure what evidence I have. I could draw it out of you, okay? And here's how we could present it, put it together, that sort of thing. So I will look forward to brainstorming some real life activities, some real
amazing.
brand building content
Amazing.
next time.
Yes.
Okay.
So sign up below this video or send us an email to info@uconnecthub.com. Or what's yours, Michael? How can they reach you?
Oh, well, thank you very much. Let me just show here
I think you can message him on LinkedIn.
just to let you know, this is my website, which is
Hmm.
emjmethod.com. And then you can reach me at Michael at themjmethod.com. Okay.
Amazing.
Okay.
And all of those links will be in the bottom of this video. So don't worry, you don't have to remember them. And just click on either of those links and contact us and say you want to know more, you want to be part of the workshop. We are also planning a 4 or 5 session workshop that will be consecutive. And when you become a attendee of those workshops, you will leave with a very beautifully completed LinkedIn profile and more. So
That's right.
watch this space. You will hear more about that. And there's going to be all sorts of deals for people who found that through this website. So
Yes. If
watch this space.
just to add on to absolutely that Tirzah and I have discussed that there what I tried to do with this first session is to help demystify. I love the word to remove the mystery of how to
Yeah,
do it, right? To demystify with some skills and strategies, but they may still seem quite abstract to you. So the next stage is okay, with this second half, let's apply them and roll up our sleeves, get our hands dirty, and create some content together, right? But this is virtual, okay? But then with the third stage would be an actual workshop where if you say, Michael, can you show me how to write up my origin story, my elevator pitch, develop my thought leadership. All right. There are various forms of content that can prove that we are who we say we are and to build our brand. So then that's would be for a workshop would be multiple sessions, but that you walk away with guaranteed content, even
that's it.
Tirzah, just to remind, even that workshop will include a one-on-one coaching session with me
That's
too.
it.
Okay, a
That's right.
one-on-one, 1 hour Zoom call where then we're really polishing up your content so it's ready for you to publish later
Beautiful.
that day.
It's going to
Okay,
be a really, really valuable investment in yourself for your future because even if it evolves and changes, you will have so much record of all of your life so that by the time you're my age, the amount of what you can showcase to others will be absolutely priceless.
great.
So we look forward to hearing from all of you and let's continue this journey together. Thank you
Okay.
so much, Michael, for being such an amazing, value-filled guest on the podcast today. I gained so much, and I'm 100% certain that everyone who listened did as well. And
That's
looking forward to the next one,
this was
which
my
is
pleasure
content creation. And we're really going to have some fun with storytelling. So
for sure.
get stuck in.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Tirzah, for this opportunity. Okay.
Join us continually on this podcast where we look to alter the education experience for young people and change what isn't working, which is a lot, and
Uh-huh.
do better
Uh-huh.
for all of you in preparing you for what you're going to face when you leave your education establishments, wherever you happen to be. So keep following us, click the like button, follow us for more, and we'll look forward to next time. And if anyone hasn't told you yet today, you are absolutely fabulous. See you.
But you better be able to prove it with some evidence.
I'm the one saying it, so.
You're allegedly fabulous, reportedly
No,
fabulous.
you are. You are fabulous. There's
Okay.
going to be way more you can learn, but you are fabulous and you are going to conquer whatever you choose to conquer. So stick with us. We'll see you
Okay.
next time.
Great.
All
Thank
right.
you. See you, Tirzah.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.